This week, NBR columnist Bridget Morton looks at the politics of welfare, and she joins me now. So we've had that welfare policy announced by the National Party, by the leader Christopher Luxon. I mean, what do you make of it? Do you think it's both going to be effective, but also is it going to win them votes?
Well, it was an interesting way for them to go, because at the moment we're talking about labour shortages. So trying to find something that addresses unemployment of a particular group seems slightly unusual on the face of it. But I think what National was trying to do was really push that they weren't just doing sort of policy announcements for the point of policy announcements. They were trying to demonstrate that they were looking at nuanced, specific, well-researched, well-evidenced solutions to particular problems. And going after youth unemployment is something that really fits that brief. I think in terms of votes, it's probably not going to be a huge vote winner, but it is about sending, as I say, those signals about what policy development looks like within National now.
I mean, it certainly, though, sparked a political debate with criticism from, opposition parties, from government parties more, that it was beneficiary bashing. Is that a fair criticism, or is that just politics?
I think it's just politics, and I think it's quite lazy politics from the government, because what they've done is picked up on two words out of Christopher Luxon's speech, which was talking about free riders, and when he was talking about free riders, it was very much in the context of people that had been unemployed for a long time and taken no efforts to rectify that situation. So in terms of that making it about beneficiary bashing, I think they just took a lazy path and tried to make out that this was old school national politics, when in fact, when you looked at it, it was something quite different.
I mean, because there's that big focus on having a job coach, and like really providing support and wraparound support. But I guess they're going to take money from the Ministry of Social Development for that, but just how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a key in terms of, how much money is going to go into some of the community providers. I think that was a smart aspect of their policy, because, they've been talking a lot about how they don't want to grow the public service any further. In fact, they want to sort of possibly reduce it. So they're actually, saying we're actually going to put more money into community providers that desperately need it, that already have these skills, is actually a much better way of approaching it.
And does it secure National's base, or you don't think it's going to have a massive impact, or does it help at least attract some of those voters, for want of a better word, who are sitting in the middle, not sure which way to go?
Yeah, I think it is one that's nicely squared at that sort of middle voter, because it's not something that is, sort of a hard right policy that's really pushing, as you say, just traditionally to the base, but it's also addressing something that people are concerned about. They do see youth unemployment, in their wider communities or their family and friends, and worry about those young people that seem to, have gone down, let's say, the wrong path, or not being on the right path to actually having a secure career or job going forward. So it kind of talks to those people that, and this is real tangible. It's not like a working group or a report or a review or any of that kind of stuff. It's actual physical action on the ground, and I think that is what particularly some middle voters are looking for at the moment, after a couple of years of inaction and indelivery from the government.
But will we get away from that political debate of National being accused of beneficiary bashes and possibly Labor on the other side being accused of being too soft on Ben?
Well, I think this is one of the problems, right? We're about a year or so away from the election period. It's a really clear sign that polls are really tight, National's sitting in front and the government's feeling under pressure. So you've seen, I think, really clearly in the last month, a change in the government's rhetoric. Before, it was very much just sort of, bash that away, who cares what the opposition says, it doesn't matter. Now it's very much, they're going quite personal, going really strong on it, coming up fast, and really attacking as much as they can the opposition, because they know that they are a threat.
Is that policy, because you mentioned about how under National's policy they will pass that work over to community providers, not expand the central government agency or the MSD, and is that part of that wider debate and disagreement around National basically opposing the government's centralisation plans? I mean, is there a broader political debate going on about centralisation versus decentralisation?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there is absolutely a broader narrative there. There's been a lot of opposition put up by the opposition to many of those centralisation things, because they say that you're putting a whole lot of money and resources into centralised people that don't necessarily have the skills or understanding about what's happening on the ground. And this does the exact opposite. And it continues on from that sort of local type policy that National has put through a number of their sort of key promises. When you look at housing, for instance, they've always said that they would invest more in community housing providers to get people off the public waiting list. So that fits into that, ability to identify that there's people out in the community that can do the job much better than a central government bureaucrat sitting in Wellington.
Bridget Morton, thank you for your time.
Thanks.